Have you ever opened your refrigerator and felt proud thinking, everything's nice and fresh in here? Most of us do. After all, we were taught that the fridge keeps our food safe, tasty, and lasting longer. But what if I told you that some of the most common foods in your fridge, foods you probably eat every single week, are actually losing their flavor, their nutrients, and in some cases, even becoming harmful? Today, we're talking about something you might not expect. 10 everyday foods you should never store in the refrigerator. Yes, you heard that right. Foods that should never be chilled. Not because it's trendy advice, but because science and experience both say the fridge is the wrong place for them. Why does this matter more as we get older? Because taste changes. Our digestion becomes more sensitive, and preserving the nutrients in our food becomes more important than ever, especially if we're managing health issues like diabetes, high blood pressure, or digestive problems. But don't worry, this isn't a lecture. It's a warm conversation between us, like friends chatting in the kitchen. I'll walk you through each food, explain the why behind it in plain English, and give you simple, practical ways to store them right. Some of these might surprise you. Some might even make you say, "Oh, I've been doing that for years." That's okay. We're all learning together. So grab a cup of tea, make yourself comfortable, and let's discover how to keep our food and ourselves healthier, happier, and full of flavor. Ready? Let's begin. Food. Number 1, potatoes. Let's start with something almost every kitchen has. Potatoes. Mashed, baked, roasted, you name it. They're a comfort food we all love. But storing them in the fridge, that's a quiet mistake many people don't even know they're making. When you put potatoes in cold temperatures, something strange happens inside. The natural starches begin turning into sugar faster than they should. This makes the texture gritty and the flavor oddly sweet. Definitely not what you want in your mashed potatoes or French fries. But here's the bigger concern. When you cook those sugary potatoes, especially at high heat, it can produce a chemical called acrylamide. It's been studied for its potential link to certain cancers. Now, that doesn't mean one plate of crispy fries is dangerous, but it is a good reminder that how we store our food matters more than we think. Potatoes also don't like moisture, and refrigerators are humid places. That moisture makes them spoil faster, turn mushy, or even smell off. So what's the better way? Keep them in a cool, dark, and dry space like a pantry, cupboard, or cellar. And don't trap them in plastic bags. Use a paper bag, mesh sack, or even a basket to let them breathe. Also, keep them away from onions. The gas onions release can make potatoes sprout or rot more quickly. Simple tip, big difference. Keep your potatoes out of the fridge and let them stay just the way you love them. Hearty, wholesome, and full of comfort. Food number 2, tomatoes. Now let's talk about tomatoes. Maybe you slice them for your sandwiches or add them to salads. You might think the fridge keeps them fresh, but in truth, it steals their flavor. Tomatoes are sensitive fruits. When you put them in the fridge, the cold air shuts down the natural process that helps them ripen and develop that sweet, juicy taste. Instead, you get a tomato that's dull, mealy, and a little lifeless. You might not notice at first, but over time, you'll start wondering why they don't taste like they used to. The answer? The fridge. Cold temperatures also lower the levels of lycopene, a natural antioxidant in tomatoes that supports heart health and may reduce cancer risk. That's another reason why, especially as we age, we want to get the most nutrition from every bite. So how should we store tomatoes instead? Keep them on the counter at room temperature. Place them stem side down if you can. This slows down moisture loss and helps them last longer. And if they're still a bit firm, just give them a few days. They'll ripen beautifully on their own. Only when a tomato is fully ripe and you can't eat it right away, then you can pop it in the fridge. But remember to bring it back to room temperature before eating. You'll get back some of that flavor and texture you've been missing. Tomatoes deserve to be juicy, rich, and full of life, just like the meals we share with the people we love. Food number 3, onions. Next up, onions. They add depth and flavor to almost every dish, but they don't belong in the refrigerator. And here's why. Onions are full of natural sugars and starches. When you store them in cold, damp places like a fridge, those sugars become more active. The result? Your onion turns soft, even slimy, and its flavor changes. It might become too sweet, or worse, it starts to grow mold. And then there's the smell. Onions are famous for their strong aroma. When you keep them in the fridge, that smell doesn't just stay in the onion. It can sneak into your butter, your berries, even your milk. Nobody wants onion-scented yogurt. The solution is simple. Whole onions should be stored in a cool, dry, well-ventilated space. Avoid plastic bags. They trap moisture. Instead, use a basket, paper bag, or mesh net that lets air flow freely. Also, keep your onions away from potatoes. I know it's tempting to store them together, but potatoes release gases that make onions spoil faster. It's like a little invisible feud between two kitchen staples. Now, if you've already sliced or peeled an onion, then the fridge is okay. Just be sure to wrap it tightly in plastic or put it in an airtight container that keeps smells locked in and everything else protected. Proper onion storage doesn't just make cooking easier. It makes your kitchen fresher and your meals more flavorful. Food number 4, garlic. Garlic is more than just flavor, it's tradition. Whether you're making pasta, roasting veggies, or preparing Sunday dinner, garlic is often at the heart of it. But garlic in the fridge, not a good pair. When garlic is kept cold, it tends to sprout. You'll notice green shoots growing from the cloves, and those shoots are bitter. They change the taste, and not in a good way. The cold also encourages moisture, which can lead to mold, softness, and even spoilage. Garlic is meant to be dry and bold. The fridge takes that away. It also makes garlic absorb odors from other foods, so your garlic could end up tasting like yesterday's leftovers. So what's the best way to keep garlic fresh? Just let it breathe. Store whole garlic bulbs in a dry, well-ventilated container. A mesh bag or open basket works perfectly. No need to seal it up. Airflow is actually your garlic's best friend. Once you break the bulb and start using individual cloves, try to use them within a few days. If you chop or crush garlic ahead of time, you can store it briefly in the fridge, but only if it's sealed tightly. And if you ever preserve garlic in oil, be very careful. It needs to be refrigerated and used within a week to avoid bacteria. When stored the right way, garlic keeps its strong familiar kick and brings your meals and memories to life. Food number 5, avocados. Ah, the avocado. Creamy, rich, and full of heart-healthy fats. Whether you're spreading it on toast, blending it into a smoothie, or slicing it for your salad, avocados have earned their place in the modern kitchen. But when it comes to storing them, timing is everything, and the fridge can often do more harm than good. Here's the truth. Unripe avocados should never go in the fridge. That's because avocados ripen using a natural gas called ethylene, and this process works best at room temperature. When you chill an avocado too early, it halts the ripening process. You end up with a fruit that feels like a rock, tastes like nothing, and never fully softens. Some even stay rubbery or turn black inside without ever being ripe on the outside. But wait, what if your avocado is already ripe? In that case, the fridge can help, but only for a short time. Maybe a day or two. Any longer, and the texture becomes watery or stringy. The healthy fats inside start to break down, and the taste can turn sour or bland. Cut avocados need even more care. Once they're open, the flesh reacts quickly to air, turning brown and mushy. To slow this down, brush a little lemon or lime juice on the cut surface and store it in an airtight container. That citrus helps prevent oxidation and keeps it looking fresh just a little longer. Here's a tip passed down from grandmothers and kitchen-savvy folks alike. If you want to ripen your avocado faster, place it in a paper bag with an apple or banana. These fruits give off ethylene gas, speeding up the process naturally. No fridge required. So remember, let it ripen naturally, and only chill it once it's ready. And even then, only briefly. That way, you enjoy all the creamy goodness avocados have to offer. Smooth, nutritious, and just right. Food number 6, bananas. Bananas are one of nature's simplest pleasures. Sweet, soft, and full of potassium, they've been a favorite for generations. But if you're popping them in the fridge to make them last longer, you might be setting yourself up for disappointment. Bananas thrive in warmth. That's just how they're built. When exposed to cold temperatures like those in a refrigerator, their skin darkens almost immediately. You might see them turn black or brown within a day or two and think, oh no, they're spoiled. But the strange part is, inside, they're not actually ripe yet. The cold stops the ripening process, leaving you with a banana that looks overripe but tastes underdeveloped. It's firm, starchy, and just doesn't hit the spot. That change in color is what scientists call a chilling injury. The banana's cells break down under the cold, and even after you take them out of the fridge, they never quite recover. So what's the best storage method? Keep your bananas at room temperature. If possible, hang them on a banana hook to reduce bruising and allow for even airflow. Don't have a hook? No problem. Just keep them away from other ethylene-producing fruits like apples if you want them to ripen slowly. Now, if your bananas are already getting too ripe, don't refrigerate. Freeze. That's the golden rule. Peel them first, slice them if you like, and freeze them for later use. They're perfect for smoothies, baking, or even mixing into oatmeal. Here's another old-fashioned tip. If you mash ripe bananas and freeze them in small containers, you've got the start of perfect banana bread or pancakes, ready whenever you are. So next time you reach for the fridge, think again. Let your bananas breathe, ripen, and sweeten the old-fashioned way, right there on your counter. Food number 7, uncut melons. Watermelon on a summer day, cantaloupe with breakfast, honeydew after dinner. Melons have been a part of family tables for decades, but storing a whole melon in the refrigerator? That could be robbing you of both flavor and nutrition. Here's something most folks don't know. Melons keep ripening after they're picked, and that ripening doesn't just affect texture, it actually improves their sweetness. But when you put a whole melon in the fridge too soon, you stop that process in its tracks. The sugar doesn't fully develop, and instead of a juicy, flavorful fruit, you end up with something dull, watery, and less satisfying. Watermelons, in particular, lose their vibrant texture when stored too cold. Their cells break down, and what was once crisp and refreshing becomes grainy and mushy. The same goes for cantaloupe and honeydew. Their texture gets rubbery, and their natural sweetness fades. But it's not just about taste. Studies show that melons stored at room temperature have higher levels of antioxidants, like beta-carotene and vitamin C. These nutrients help fight inflammation, protect your immune system, and support healthy aging. That's a pretty good reason to leave them out on the counter, don't you think? Now, once you've cut the melon, that's the time for the fridge. You'll want to cover the cut pieces tightly, either with plastic wrap or in an airtight container, and eat them within 3 to 4 days for the best taste and food safety. So the next time you bring home a big, beautiful melon, don't rush it into the fridge. Let it sit on the counter and ripen fully. Then slice it up, chill the pieces, and enjoy every juicy, nutritious bite. Food number 8, bread. Bread is one of the oldest, most comforting foods we know. Whether it's a warm slice with butter, a sandwich for lunch, or toast in the morning, it's familiar, filling, and full of memories. But storing your bread in the refrigerator? That's one habit that might be doing more harm than good. Here's the surprising truth. Bread actually goes stale faster in the fridge, not slower. Even though it seems like cold air should preserve it, what's really happening is a process called retrogradation. That's when the starch molecules in bread begin to crystallize, turning soft slices into dry, crumbly ones. The fridge speeds up that process, especially if the bread is sliced or exposed to air. And what about moisture? The fridge can make the outside of your bread soggy, while the inside becomes tough and tasteless. Not exactly the kind of toast you look forward to with your morning coffee. So what should you do instead? If you plan to eat the bread within a few days, just keep it in a cool, dry place like a bread box or pantry. Keep it in its original wrapper or in a paper bag with a loose seal to let it breathe without drying out too quickly. Now, if you've got more bread than you'll eat in time, freeze it. Freezing keeps bread fresh far longer than refrigerating. Slice it first, if it's not already sliced, so you can take out just what you need. Then toast it or warm it in the oven when you're ready. It'll taste almost like it just came from the bakery. Bread has been part of our lives and tables for generations. With just a little care in how we store it, we can keep it soft, fresh, and ready to nourish us, one slice at a time. Food number 9, honey. Honey is more than just sweet. It's ancient, healing, and nearly eternal. Archaeologists have even found pots of honey in Egyptian tombs that are thousands of years old and still perfectly edible. That's the magic of honey. But when we store it in the fridge, we interrupt that natural perfection. Cold temperatures make honey crystallize faster. You've probably seen it. It turns thick, grainy, sometimes almost solid. And while it's still safe to eat, it's much harder to spread or stir into your tea. The texture changes and the lovely floral notes of the honey begin to fade. But it's not just about convenience. Storing honey in the fridge adds unnecessary moisture, which can lead to fermentation if the seal on the jar isn't airtight. That's rare. But why take the risk when there's a better way? The best place for your honey? Right in the cupboard. Keep it in a tightly sealed container at room temperature, away from sunlight and heat. That's all it needs. No fancy tricks, no refrigeration. And if your honey does crystallize, don't worry. Just place the jar in a bowl of warm, not boiling, water. Stir gently, and it will return to its golden liquid form. Honey is nature's gift, pure, powerful, and patient. Let's treat it with that same respect, and it will last us for years, sweetening our tea, toast, and memories alike. Food number 10, olive oil. Now let's take a moment to talk about something truly precious in the kitchen, olive oil. It's not just an ingredient, it's a tradition, a staple that's been passed down through generations, especially in Mediterranean cultures where food is medicine and meals are moments of connection. Olive oil is celebrated for its smooth texture, rich flavor, and powerful health benefits. But when it comes to storing it, there's a common mistake that quietly takes away everything we love about it, putting it in the refrigerator. Now, I understand why people do it. We think cold means fresh, that the fridge will help it last longer. But in the case of olive oil, that instinct backfires. When olive oil gets cold, especially the good kind, extra virgin olive oil, it begins to solidify. You'll see it turn cloudy, thick, or even develop waxy white lumps that look like it's spoiled. The oil becomes harder to pour, harder to cook with, and harder to enjoy. And even if it melts back at room temperature, that repeated cycle of cooling and warming can slowly change its flavor over time. But it's not just about texture. There's something else, something more subtle. When you store olive oil in the fridge, condensation can form inside the bottle. That small amount of moisture, if it gets into the oil, can actually start the process of spoilage. Water and oil don't mix well, and that tiny drop of moisture can feed bacteria and shorten the life of your oil without you even realizing it. And that's not all. Olive oil has 3 natural enemies: heat, light, and air. The refrigerator protects it from heat, yes, but it doesn't protect it from light when you open the door, or from condensation, as we just discussed. So in the end, we're not gaining anything by chilling it. We're actually risking quality. So where should you store your olive oil? Somewhere cool, but not cold. A pantry, cabinet, or cupboard away from the stove or any direct sunlight is ideal. It doesn't need total darkness, but keeping it in a dark glass bottle or stainless steel container helps shield it from light. And always make sure the lid is on tight so oxygen doesn't sneak in and speed up oxidation. That's what makes oil go rancid. Stored the right way, olive oil can stay fresh for months, sometimes even longer. It'll keep that signature aroma, that golden green color, and all those heart-healthy antioxidants that make it so special. And here's a small reminder from generations past. Olive oil isn't just about food. It's about care. It's what you rub into dry hands in the winter, what you drizzle over warm bread on a Sunday afternoon, what you stir into soups when someone's not feeling well. It's simple. It's nourishing, and when treated with respect, it gives back more than we realize. So let's not hide it in the fridge. Let's give it the place it deserves, in our kitchens, our meals, and our lives. So there you have it, 10 everyday foods that truly deserve a better home than your refrigerator. From creamy avocados to golden honey, each of them carries not just flavor and nutrition, but tradition, culture, and care. And maybe that's the real message today. Food isn't just about calories or expiration dates. It's about the choices we make every day to support our well-being, our comfort, and our families. It's about slowing down, noticing the small things, and treating even the simplest items, like a loaf of bread or a bulb of garlic, with the same respect we'd give to something far more delicate. As we get older, we start to realize it's the little things that make the biggest difference. The way you store your food, the way you prepare a meal, the way you remember a recipe your mother used to make, or the smell of your father's Sunday breakfast. These aren't just habits, they're rituals. And when we do them with care, they nourish more than just our bodies. They feed the soul. So before you put that tomato in the fridge or toss that onion in a drawer, pause for a moment. Ask yourself, is this how it was meant to be? Often the wisdom we're looking for isn't in a science lab. It's in the stories we grew up with, the way our grandparents did things, the things we used to do before convenience got in the way of common sense. And now I'd love to hear from you. Which of these foods surprised you the most? Have you been storing them wrong all these years? Or do you have your own family tricks that have stood the test of time? Share them in the comments below. Because this community isn't just about watching videos. It's about passing on what we've learned together. If you found today's video helpful, give it a thumbs up so others can find it too. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. Here at Elders Insight, we believe it's never too late to grow wiser, live healthier, and feel more connected to our food, to our homes, and to each other. Until next time, take care of yourself and take care of what's in your kitchen. It's where wisdom lives.